Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show as we start your day off here at Northeast Streaming Sports Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Hall of Fame legendary boxing writer Jack Hirsch, bringing you your sports breakfast live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Today's guests scheduled are Byron Williams, our NFL analyst, Keith Angle, coming to you from the Bahama area down there in the Caribbean, the TGI Sports talk host, and the Philly sports guy, who will be coming to us live from Las Vegas, Jack, where the Eagles will be playing the Raiders this Sunday. So he's out there. So all our guests are all over the place, Jack. Byron's going to a golf tournament, so we'll probably catch him in the car. So the only ones not going anywhere right now are me and you, Jack.
You know, and when you see Pags and you see the other guests, you know we have guests with a lot of diversity as far as the dress code goes.
Yes, we do. We definitely do. Jack's mentioning that because he's always influenced on his picks when the Philly guy shows up in his Philly outfit and he gets
I change him on game day, seeing him in the parking lot all hyped up, his face painted.
Yes.
Striked for the big game. I mean, he gets me riled up, and I'm not an Eagle fan, as you could tell.
I know, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So, Jack, a lot of sports. This is the time of year. Baseball is closing out. Football's midway through. The NBA and NHL are starting up. So there's a whole lot of stuff that we're going to try to get through today, not only with our guests, but just covering sports. So in the MLB championship, the National League, the Dodgers win 2 in a row to push the series to Game 6 after Atlanta jumped out to a 3-0 series lead. Dodgers win last night.
A 3-1 series lead.
Sorry, 3-1. You are correct. Last night, the Dodgers left fielder Pollock, he ended up leading the offensive charge, going 3 for 5 with 4 RBIs. Starting pitcher Joe Keeley pulled right after the first inning, giving up 2 runs to the Braves. The relievers took care of the rest of the game for him. For Atlanta, first baseman Freddie Freeman, I love that name, did the damage for the Braves with 2 RBIs. And so, Jack, I mean, the Dodgers, they win tomorrow. They push it to Game 6. What do you think?
Mac, I think you have something against Dodger third baseman Chris Taylor. The man hits 3 home runs, and he doesn't even get a mention from you.
Well,
you and him may have gotten into it during a media press conference or something. Yes. You know, you're just ignoring a guy who hit 3 home runs. He's not even worth a mention. Come on, Mac.
Well, you know, I figured I'd leave that for you, Jack. I got to let you come up with some big
3 homers. I'm going to tell you something. Pressure, pressure's how you deal with it, with certain athletes and teams. And believe me, the Atlanta Braves are very aware of what went on last year when they had a 3-1 series lead over the Dodgers and they let it get away. The Dodgers won the next 3. The Dodgers went on to win the World Series. They have to be thinking of that. I mean, it's come up over and over. As soon as they got a 3-1 lead in this series, the thought was, well, the Dodgers can come back. They did it last year. And then they win so decisively last night. And the Braves have to be thinking about that. They go home to Atlanta for the next 2 games, hopefully. On their end, it's only 1 game. But that has to weigh heavy on their mind. And the Dodgers are thinking about that, too. We did it last year. We can do it again. And it's going to be interesting, how the Braves handle the pressure, whether they can close this thing out or not.
I was thinking that before the show, Jack. I remember when late 70s when the Yankees would beat the Royals, on walk-offs and stuff like that. And it seemed like until 81 when they broke that little jinx they had there.
1980 when they swept the Yankees. In the
Right. So for that one time, they at least broke it. But leading up to that, it seemed like the Yankees had their number, especially in some, dynamic finishes there at the end of the series. So I was thinking the same thing. But you know something, Jack? I think the Braves do it tomorrow night. I think they get it done. I think the Braves are going to go ahead and win that championship. You only can go to well so many times, Jack. You can only put yourself behind the 8 ball. I'm not going to use all the cliches I can. behind the eight ball so many times before you can't get the shot. So I think that the Braves can do it this year.
Well, at what point does one team get over the hump against the other one? Look, the Buffalo Bills, 4 Super Bowl losses in a row. You have to feel law of averages. They're going to win one. The Brooklyn Dodgers finally won one against the New York Yankees. But how many times did they lose before that? You gave a great example, the Yankees and the Royals. The Yankees beat the Royals in the playoffs in 1976, 1977, and 1978, and neither got in 79. But then when they got in 1980, the Royals finally got over the hump. But you want to know something? Last night, the Braves had their ace Max Fried going. And that's the type of pitcher, you think would close it out for you, yet he pitches poorly. And would he be available for 7th game? Yeah, I guess on 2 days rest, he'd be available to come out of the bullpen. But if Atlanta should lose tomorrow night, game 6, it's going to be nervous time for game 7. Game 7 is going to be really a sight to behold.
From what I hear, Scherzer may go game 6, and then they got another, a big time pitcher, which the Dodgers have. But, we'll see what happens with Scherzer. Maybe.
Never like guys going on short rest in this day. Yes. It's not like years ago. Listen, in the 1965 World Series, the great Sandy Koufax pitched the 7th game on 2 days rest and pitched a 3-hit shutout, beating the Twins 2-0. The pitchers were tougher than in their mindset. If they had to go on 2 days rest, a big game, they can do it. But the modern-day pitcher is such a creature of habit, Mac, and how he does things. You upset his routine in the slightest, and it has an effect on him. So I just hate guys going on short rest, unless a guy has a bionic arm like Max Baumgartner, in 2014 in the World Series, Giants against Royals. He was used to just pitching, an unlimited amount at the time. But for the most part, I hate guys going on short rest.
Yeah, unless your name also is Randy Johnson. You're somebody like that can do that. Normally, as you said, today's pitchers don't do that anymore.
Maybe out of the bullpen for an inning.
Maybe.
Give the start. But somehow the guys going on short rest are never as effective.
That's very true. Not today anyway. So Boston and Houston play tonight, 8 p.m. Houston leads the series 3-2. Boston needs a win to push it to game 7. Houston wins, it's all over. The Astros are starting a rookie, Jack. Pitcher Luis Garcia against Eovaldi for Boston, their best pitcher for the Sox. I don't count the Red Sox out. I still think Houston goes to the series like I predicted. But Boston may push it to game 7. They got a good pitcher and they got a heck of an offense, Jack.
I mean, you said it perfectly. I learned my lesson from you, Mac. Can't count the Red Sox out, even though obviously Houston is heavily favored now. They're back at home. They have 2 games at home. They just have to win 1. This situation seems a little more comfortable than the Atlanta Braves situation because I'd rather have the Red Sox staring at me down 3-2 than I would the Los Angeles Dodgers. And, if it gets to a 7th game, Mac, we know anything could happen. There's such unpredictability. You could bring the Baltimore Orioles back who haven't played in, 2-3 weeks and bring them, in the middle of the night and, they could conceivably beat a good team out of nowhere. So you never wanted to get to that 1 game. So the Astros have this little cushion right now with the game 6. Personally, I think they'll close it out. But as you said, you can never count the Red Sox out based on what they've done this year.
No doubt, Jack. So let's get into the NHL a little bit. I'll go through some scores. The Panthers 4, the Avalanche 1. You had the Hurricanes 4, Montreal 1, Washington 4, the Devils 1, Sharks beat Seattle 2-1. The Blue Jackets beat the Islanders 3-2. Colorado over Detroit 3-0. The New York Rangers beat the Predators 3-1. The Jets 5, the Ducks 1. The Canucks 4, Chicago 1. Oilers beat the Coyotes 5-1. For the New York Islanders, Jack, in the loss, Barzal and Mayfield with a goal each. For the Devils, Janek, I'm trying to pronounce it right, with 1 goal from their loss. And for the Rangers, Lafreniere, Gaudreau, and Chittle each with a goal in their win over the Predators. And I think, Jack, the Rangers, who came on strong at the end of last year, I think they're going to surprise a lot of people this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they get that fourth seed this year, Jack.
Nice start for the Rangers. Getting the fourth seed, that's not going to be easy because they're going to have to beat out, between the Islanders, the Bruins, the Penguins, and the Capitals. They're going to have to beat out one of those four teams. And that's going to be a tough chore. It doesn't mean they can't do it. I got to say something about the New Jersey Devils. No one talks about the Devils as being a possible playoff contender. And based on last night, they certainly didn't look like one. They lose to the Washington Capitals 4-1. That's 8 straight losses to the Capitals. But what bothered me the most, Mac, is the Devil coach, Lindy Ruff. He said this several times, and he said it again last night. Well, we didn't play as hard as we could have. Well, that's his job, getting them to play as hard as they could have. I mean, I can understand. He said we didn't execute well. We executed poorly. I can accept that, okay? They executed poorly. They've got to improve in that area. But playing hard is something everyone could do. That's not a skill level. If you teach me how to skate, Mac, I can play just as hard as any NHL player. Okay, just put me on the ice and I can give 100%. It's all about, if it's about skill, execution, I can understand the talk. But I don't want to hear we didn't play as hard as we could have. And if they didn't, if that's the truth, you better be darn sure moving forward that they do. I've heard that theme several times. It seems with the Devils, and I just don't want to hear it anymore.
Listen, I'm with you, Jack. If they're not playing hard, that's his fault. So you might as well just say I'm messing. I don't know why you would say that to begin with. Execution is a totally different thing. In the NBA, Jack, there was only 3 games last night. The Hawks beat Dallas 113-87, Miami 137, Bucks 95, and the Warriors over the Clippers 115-113. Tonight's locals, we have the Knicks and Magic, Nets and 76ers, and the Raptors at the Celtics. Jack, I mean, I think the Hawks are gonna be a very formidable team this year again. I think the Bucks will, they're going to lose some here and there, but I think they're going to be up there. The Nets, yes. The 76ers, even without Simmons, yes. I think the Knicks will be a little better this year, and I think the Celtics will be a little better this year. I think the East, the NBA, the East Conference Division is starting to get as competitive as the West, Jack.
Well, I'll tell you, there are more good teams in the NBA than I can ever remember as far as balance. I mean, there are no super teams in the NBA, but there are a lot of good teams in the NBA. And it's up for grabs who can win what. At Miami, they're having a little bit of a resurgence. They've got Kyle Lowry, you pair with Jimmy Butler. They have a very deep bench. So the Miami Heat are going to be a force. Listen, the Knicks actually, they have a nice chemistry there based on the first game. If you look at all the players, and if they could pick up where they were from last year with the additions, they might not be a number 4 seed. But they're, going to have a good team who could actually win one of the rounds in the playoffs. The Milwaukee Bucks, obviously good. The Nets, the adventures of Kyrie. Even if he comes back, they're not a lock to win it. I'm not crazy about the Lakers if you look at the West. I know their addition, Westbrook, Anthony. I don't like the chemistry on that team. I just don't like the chemistry. Can LeBron straighten it out the way he has with other teams to a degree? I don't know, but I'm not that high on the Lakers. With the Clippers, they lost last night. No K.Y. Leonard in the lineup. Whether Golden State, who's won a couple of games with the high scoring of Steph Curry, whether they even resemble the old Golden State teams that won the title, not that long ago, I question. But there are all these good teams out there. There's Denver, there's Utah. I mean, there's a lot of quality teams in the NBA.
Yeah, you mentioned the Lakers, and I'm wondering about that too. LeBron's not getting any younger, for sure. I mean, he's still very, very good. One of the probably top 5 in the league at least. And Anthony Davis, I mean, he gets injured, but when he's healthy, he's dynamite. I mean, that's a hell of a 1-2 punch. I don't know what they were thinking about Carmelo Anthony, who's really used up, really doesn't play defense, never has. Still got a nice shot. And Westbrook, who hustles like crazy, guaranteed Hall of Famer, also old in his career, getting older in his career. That's like the over-the-hill gang with the Washington Redskins, Jack. I mean, they're all, except for Anthony Davis, they're all really up there right now. Do you think a team like that can, go the full four quarters, go the full 82 games, and still be a viable team in the playoffs?
Probably not. I don't know, the over-the-hill gang with the Redskins wasn't the best example. They did go to a Super Bowl, the over-the-hill gang, and they were in contention most of the time. I don't think so. Russell Westbrook is starting. He would be better served coming off the bench for the Lakers, because the one thing that Russell Westbrook has more than any other player in the NBA, or at least as much as any other player in the NBA, is an energy level, a passion. He comes in there, he's going 100 miles per hour up and down the court every minute. And now in this Laker slow down defense with LeBron James playing the point and Anthony Davis posting up, they're not so much of a running team. So Russell Westbrook has to slow himself down. And he's really not going to be effective that way. And I've said it over and over again with Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony, who doesn't play the greatest defense, who, even though he's now making more of an effort to play defense than he did early in his career, it's not one of his strong suits. The chemistry's not there. Westbrook and Anthony, their game hasn't translated into making their teams better, because, their individual skill set at times is a little too overpowering for the team concept of the team chemistry. And their glamour names, Westbrook, Anthony, they're going to buy in. They might buy in mentally, into what has to be done and emotionally. But their game, once they're on the court, the chemistry's not there. And then, listen, Russell Westbrook, who gives it his all, a future Hall of Fame, and I sound like a hater. Look, you just have to look at the history. They didn't win at OKC when he went there. He had Kevin Durant. They didn't win at Houston. He was there with James Harden. And Harden was with OKC also with Durant in the beginning. Last year with Washington, they made the playoffs, and then it was a quick elimination. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about making a championship run somewhere. He was with Bradley Beal, but they weren't better than they could have been. Now he's coming to the Lakers, and he had Paul George at OKC, and didn't even come close to winning a championship. And now he's with LeBron there. I just don't think this thing is working out, but I think they're going to be the biggest soap opera team in the NBA, because the way we're talking about them now, and as the year goes on, if they're not winning, they're going to be the focus of all the news, and then there's going to be maybe discontent within the team.
Well, that will take away the focus away from your team. The Nets, that is the biggest soap opera in the NBA by far. Still,
the Philadelphia 76ers, right?
Yeah, there you go. That's a good point too. That's a good point.
They've taken Kyrie, a little bit out of the news.
Yes, good point. Good point, Jack. Another soap opera in Philadelphia. So the NBA, like I said, they're all up. They're all running. All the sports are going at once.
Mac, you asked me, did I see the game last night? There are about 8 possible games to see. You can only watch so much. I channel scan back and forth. It's not the best way of doing it. I think it's better sometimes just to watch one game, and during the commercials you check on another game, but it's hard to follow each game. I mean, and even in these studios, Mac, who have split screens, they have 6 games going on at once. How on earth do you concentrate on it? One guy is puck handling, moving in on the goal, while another guy's taking a jump shot, while a quarterback is fading out the pass. You can only watch so much at one time.
Jack, you keep bugging me. I'm not getting extra people for our studios to watch all the videos for us.
Carlos is back.
Yeah, Carlos has been around. He's been a little more quieter than normal.
A little quieter
than normal. Carlos has dropped in now and then. Glad to have him aboard, of course. So let's get to the Thursday night football game, Jack. Right? Yesterday I said, if the Denver Broncos were to beat the Cleveland Browns, this would be their night. right? I mean, no Baker Mayfield, no Chubbs, no Hunt. All their three major players in that running style, play action, pass style offense, the Browns use. This was Denver's opportunity. And Denver didn't take advantage of it, Jack. Cleveland beats them 17-14. The second string quarterback you mentioned, Case Keenum, he is a good fill-in quarterback. He has started in the league before and had some success. He went 21 for 33 for 199 yards and 1 touchdown. And the thing about that is he threw to 10 different people, Jack. I mean, he spread the ball around a lot there. You had, let me see if I say this right. I think it's Ernest Johnson rushes for 148 yards, the fill-in running back on 23 carries. Teddy Bridgewater goes 23 for 39, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And Denver only rushes the ball 12 times all game, Jack. Now, listen, I know it's a different type of style out there. Of course, Cleveland and Tennessee and maybe Baltimore are very successful, run the ball more than other teams. But you still have got to run the ball and control the ball at certain times of the game, and you still have to be able to run out the clock at the end of the game if you're ahead. Throwing the ball there's 3 things throwing the ball does, Jack. You get a completion, incompletion, or interception. 2 to 3 aren't good. So you still have to have some kind of ground attack. It looks like Denver didn't even try last night. And listen, I give the Cleveland Browns credit. Their backup stepped up and played a great game.
The NFL needs to adopt a new statistic: missed tackles. I mean, I don't see that. I mean, Denver holds Cleveland to 17 points. On the surface, that doesn't look bad. But there were so many missed tackles by the Denver Broncos, who've now lost 4 straight. And we heard about this touted Denver defense. In all fairness to them, they have had injuries. A couple of years ago when they drafted Bradley Chubb, the whole idea, you're pairing him with Von Miller, and you're going to have like 2 awesome pass rushers in there, and they were going to anchor your defense. And they've only played a handful of games together due to injuries. Chubb's been out. Von Miller was out all of last year. And they've had problems in the secondary, and the chemistry's just not there with the Broncos. They made a promising start when they beat the Giants opening game of the season. People were saying, who predicted Denver was going to have a really good team. That was their confirmation, but I guess that was an illusion. I don't want to hear on the Cleveland side with Case Keenum how well he played. He did fine. I mean, he did fine managing the game. He threw the ball to a lot of different receivers. But please, if Case Keenum is going to be a starting quarterback going forward long term, the Cleveland Browns are going to revert back to their losing ways. Case Keenum is not the answer. But listen, he's capable of playing well for parts of a season, maybe even a good part of a season. He's kind of in the Ryan Fitzpatrick mold in that sense. Look, he was good with Minnesota, taking them with the playoffs. And the Broncos were deluded into thinking Case Keenum could be their franchise quarterback. They signed him, and they quickly saw it didn't work out. But he's an excellent backup. The problem with Baker Mayfield right now, Mac, he's hurt. He has a bad injury on his non-throwing shoulder. And under normal conditions, he'd be having surgery now, but he wants to play. Is he capable of playing? Will they pass him to play? And now the question is this, Mac. Is a healthy Case Keenum better than an injured Baker Mayfield? If Baker Mayfield is healthy, he should be a starting quarterback without question. Don't even discuss Case Keenum with me then. But Baker Mayfield being hurt, I'm not so sure now. Maybe the Browns should go forward with Case Keenum the rest of the way and let Baker Mayfield get his surgery. Because if he's compromised, is he going to do you much good? Unless you're keeping Baker Mayfield as a backup while he's hurt. But that clearly would create an ugly situation.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it would depend how long it would take with that operation for that injury. I mean, if Cleveland wants to go this year, an injured Baker Mayfield won't bring him there. Case and Keenum ain't going to bring him there. I don't know, Jack. I don't know what they do. I don't know what they would do to reach that Super Bowl. They made the playoffs.
Keep in mind they do have Landry and Beckham. A couple of great receivers. They have the running game. Their defense is going to have to step up big time.
I agree.
That's all there is to it. I mean, the Cleveland Browns are sitting at 4-3. They're better than that.
Yes.
I mean, if they get in the playoffs, they can create a danger. A lot of times it's about teams peaking, getting in the playoffs. Listen, we talk about locally. The New York Giants, the second of their 2 Super Bowls, they had a 9-7 regular season. They were 7-7 after 14 games with 2 games to play. So they certainly didn't resemble a Super Bowl team, but it's kind of peaking. Tampa Bay last year, they were 7-5, and then they.
Yeah, Jack, but you're talking about Baker Mayfield compared to Eli Manning or Tom Brady. Those are 2 different comparisons. Baker Mayfield's not even in their class.
But if he's healthy, he's good enough. If the team around him is good enough, but Baker Mayfield's hurt, that creates a bad situation.
That's the key. If he's not hurt, he could manage a team as he did last year. And I'm glad you brought up the wide receivers, OBJ. What makes you think that OBJ is a good receiver anymore, Jack? He's terrible. I don't know what happened to him. I had this written down to talk to you about. He had 2 receptions yesterday for 11.5 yards. His receptions every year have been tailing off. I don't know what happened to. You could say injuries. Everybody gets injured. I'm tired of hearing injuries. Listen, everybody gets injured playing professional football. But Odell Beckham was the second coming of Jerry Rice when he played with the Giants, right? I mean, this guy was
more like Randy Moss type.
Well, whatever. I'm just putting a great receiver up there. I'm not trying to compare styles. I'm saying he was the second coming and the greatest wide receiver of all time, I would think, is Jerry Rice. The catches he made, the amount he could turn a small play into a big play. I mean, he's gone so downhill, he doesn't even look close to what he looked like. He looks like an average wide receiver at best, Jack, right now.
The Giants never would have traded Odell Beckham Jr. had he not demanded it, because he was so wildly popular in New York. He was so iconic. But he was a prima donna. He kept demanding the ball. He kept having fits on the sideline. He was a distraction to the New York Giants, and he basically forced himself out of New York. Not that he demanded a trade, but his conduct was such. But what I don't understand is he was happy to go to Cleveland because he's buddies with the other wide receiver, Jarvis Landry. And Jarvis Landry is an outstanding receiver, meaning Odell Beckham Jr. would have to co-star in the movie. He couldn't be the star himself, which he always craved to be. And Jarvis Landry, has been the little more important receiver, even while Beckham has been healthy. And now it just hasn't worked out for him. Then he suffered the injury. And I kind of wonder if Cleveland traded Odell Beckham Jr., what can they get in return? It certainly wouldn't be a number 1 draft choice, not with the money he's making. Some team can get him cheap if Cleveland finds him to be a distraction. But listen, he's going to be with Cleveland the rest of the year. I can't imagine him getting traded right before the trade deadline. Well, maybe I can imagine it. He maybe could give some team a spark, but we're going to have on Byron Williams now, and he could certainly talk about.
Yeah, definitely. We ran this in perfect with Byron. So let's bring on Byron Williams, former wide receiver star of the New York Giants, played with Detroit, played with the Colts, played with the Packers, the Eagles, also World Football League. This man knows a lot about football. So let's bring up Byron and see what his thoughts are on today's news in the NFL. How you doing today, Byron?
Hey, good morning.
I know
Byron. I want to thank you for something later on in the show when we have a little bit.
Jack just loves to interrupt me and say something that nobody knows what the hell he's talking about. But anyway, Byron, you're on your way to a golf tournament, and we're catching you in the car, so I'm glad you could make it with us. we just got a discussion about last night's game, right? If the Denver Broncos were to beat the Cleveland Browns, it would have been last night without Baker Mayfield, without their running game, but they couldn't do it. Right. And Jack brought up, that the Cleveland Browns have two outstanding wide receivers in Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. And I want to talk to you about this because you being a former wide receiver, maybe you have an answer for this. Odell Beckham Jr. is average receiver at best right now in his career. And I don't know what happened to him. Again, I don't want to hear about injuries, Byron. You've been injured. Everybody gets injured. But he was like the second coming of Randy Moss or Jerry Rice when he played with the Giants. Exciting, make big catches. And now he doesn't even seem like he's on the field. What the heck happened to Odell, Byron?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but, it's kind of it's the chemistry with, that just goes to show you that you got to practice with the team. He hadn't been practicing. They don't have their timing down. It's important that you get the repetitions for his running routes. The quarterback got to get used to you. So I don't care how great the guy is, you still have to have your time. If you look at Jerry Rice and Joe Montana and all those great combination quarterbacks / receivers, you have to put the time in with the quarterbacks. And I think that's what's missing. He's been injured a lot. He didn't practice. He didn't go through no training camp. So I just think it's all about timing. Maybe later on in the season, they can create some type of chemistry to make sure they have the combination that they need to have. But right now, it's just hard to fit them in. And then you can see when a player get off the field, he's frustrated. They call his plays and blah, 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 and he's still not getting the ball. So it goes into – that just goes to show you that you have to put time in practice, time in with the quarterback, time in with this offseason program. So some of the things that you have seen, like Russell Wilson done with his receivers, he makes sure they get in a whole month of time together. And the way they have created practice with these players, you have to have that type of case scenario put it in trying to make sure that you and the player and the quarterback and the receivers are on the same page. You have to be on the same page. And right now you don't see that happening throughout the NFL. And then when injuries hit, it's kind of hard to see if they can get back on the football field. Jarvis Landry, he kind of nicked his knee again last night, but I saw he finished the game. So there was a lot of combination of that. I think that's in the situation with the Cleveland Browns right now.
Byron, you make a great point. It's up to the quarterback usually to get the receiver going, okay? And if Odell Beckham was with a team like the Green Bay Packers, one of our listeners here mentioned the name Green Bay, Jason Gonzalez, Aaron Rodgers would get him going. He would get him going. Some quarterbacks just can't get him going because they're not natural downfield passes. But an Aaron Rodgers, a Tom Brady, a Patrick Mahomes, the great quarterbacks elevate the receivers, I think. They help them get their confidence back. They let them know they got their back. They're working with them. It just takes a couple of big catches, for a guy to start getting his swagger back.
Exactly, and a good example of that is Tom Brady and Antonio Brown. I mean, you can see that they got their swag back. They doing a lot of great things. He had a couple of great games this year, and I just think that's what it takes. They have to have the combination. The quarterback needs to make sure that these receivers, and then another thing when they put the graphics on TV, how many targets that these guys are getting? 5 targets, 7 targets, blah blah blah. And football is just a peculiar game that you have to keep working hard at, and you just can't get frustrated with the situation. You got to continue to work, and get that chemistry mixed into the equation.
Hey, Byron, let me ask you a question about that, and then we'll get off Odell. When Odell came in to the Giants, of course, Eli Manning was his quarterback. Eli Manning is a great downfield thrower. There's no doubt about it. But do you think that maybe Odell took that for granted, that this is how it was supposed to be, that maybe he didn't have to work as hard because he's so talented? Do you think that maybe he got spoiled with all the off-field stuff and thought that maybe this was the right way? Maybe there was nobody there talking to him saying, I don't know if you could have talked to him or not. I mean, I don't want to put out anybody else. But doesn't maturity have a lot to do with it? I mean, Randy Moss had problems till he matured a little bit. It seemed like Odell He says a lot of the right things sometimes, but talking and doing things are two different things. So you think that maybe that Odell just kind of thought that his talent would just carry him over without doing the work?
I think that's probably, complacent is one of the things that probably happen to a lot of superstars. And unfortunately, that's why I think a lot of guys need mentoring or need to be around somebody that's been there and done that. I think you need to have conversation with, Chris Carter, Jerry Rice, all the guys who've been real successful in this league. And, and I think you got to continue to understand that. But when you get up to close to 30 years old, you're on a down scale of your talent and your skill set. It's just, and you can still think those things, but your body don't mass produce. That's why you don't hardly see too many 32-year-olds playing a full season in the NFL, a 16-game schedule, 17-game schedules. So your body can't mass produce the output, right? So those are some of the things that you have to think about. But it's a key thing about being business-oriented, being smart about how you conduct your business, and knowing what you're there to do. Because he's still productive, but I just think too that he became a little complacent, looking at what he did early on in his career, and you can just see his stats keep going down from 100 yards, averaging 100 yards a game to 50 yards a game, or whatever the case may be. But you still got to do the little thing to make sure that you stay on top of your game.
Well, I just want to say, Mac,
I think mentoring and talking to older players really helped that case scenario.
I just want to say, Mac, one thing with Eli Manning. When Odell Beckham was with the Giants the last couple of years, Eli Manning was on the downside of his own career, and I think that's what frustrated Odell, because Eli Manning wasn't as effective at downfield passer the last couple of years. So I think that fit into it, and you can only criticize an Eli Manning so much. So Odell had to kind of hold his tongue, but he'd have these fits in the sideline. I think it was a maturity issue that got him out of New York, him having all these hissy fits on the sidelines and all. I think it was creating a distraction for the organization.
Listen, the Giants, certain organizations don't want to hear all that stuff. I mean, Pittsburgh's one of them. Giants are one of them. They don't want to hear all that stuff. You come here and play football. The Patriots are another one. You come play football or do whatever you got to do. Off field, just keep it off field and try not to be in the news too much, even though he was. So there's a lot of interesting games coming up, Byron, I think, anyway. You got the Chiefs against the Titans, right? The Titans are the old ground and pound. We're going to beat you up. The Chiefs are the new throw and go kind of offense, right? And the Chiefs have been having a lot of problems on defense. And Patrick Mahomes doesn't look like Patrick Mahomes because his offensive line isn't as good. And go figure, right? So what do you think about that game? Can the Chiefs defense, I think this is the key to them winning this game, can they even slow down Derrick Henry?
Well, nobody yet have slowed them down. The only good thing that the Chiefs can say that they at home and maybe the home crowd can help them out. But if Derrick Henry and them played the game that they're capable of playing, I think now they got that momentum. They moving in the right direction. I think it's gonna be a good game. Might be one of the games of the week. With the Chiefs, they defense still ain't playing near to what they have done in the past. And like you say, you got the Honey Badger back there and the safety, but he getting older. So some of the things that they have in the past with their success is kind of fading away for their defense. I think Jones is still injured, they top defensive lineman. So if they don't play consistently like they're supposed to be playing, the Titans are on a momentum run. I think I like what they're doing. Anytime, and you know this, Matt, anytime that you can run the ball, you have a better chance of winning games. And that's what it's all about. It's defense and game control, controlling the clock, being able to make those first down. That's what Cleveland did last night with that Johnson kid. And so right now, ain't nobody stopped Derrick Henry. So I can say that.
175 yards he's going to run for against the Chiefs. I mean, they can't stop the run as is. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Derrick Henry, ran for over 200 yards. I know that's a massive amount of yards, but they can't stop the run, and they're going to be running right at the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know for sure if Jason, if Julio Jones is playing or not this week. I don't know if it will even really matter that much. But Julio has kind of fallen off a little bit too. He's still got some good hands, but he's injured quite a bit now. The last 3 years, I think Julio Jones has spent more time off the field than on the field. So
I think he might be moved at the trade deadline. I just have a feeling because he could help some team, a great veteran like him.
yeah, if he stays healthy, he could. So let's take a look real quick at the Bengals and Ravens. And I don't believe I'm saying this, not as far as the Ravens go, but as far as the Bengals go, this may be for first place right now, Byron. The Bengals have been playing some really solid football. Burrows has been playing great as a quarterback. The defense of the Bengals is not that bad. In fact, they're pretty good. But they're going up against a Ravens team that's very physical, and we know what kind of running game with Lamar Jackson and the running backs they got. What do you think? Do you think the Bengals can beat the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, the Bengals are 4-2 and the Ravens are 5-1. And right now, I still like the Ravens because they playing at home. They playing smash mouth football on the defensive side. So I just think if the Bengals come in there and be consistently play error-free football, then they have a good chance of winning because they have really changed the middle the middle part of their game with the players, and I think too their players are playing with confidence.
Yeah,
and the Bengals are not a bad team, so
not bad at all.
It should be a real good game. And but I do think the Ravens right now is playing top net football too. They're in the top 5 for the winning index in the NFL. I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, they may not be able to stop Burrows throwing the ball. Maybe he has some success, but can the Bengals stop Lamar Jackson running and throwing the ball?
The NFL, there's such a thin line sometimes between winning and losing. I mean, the way the Bengals won a couple of games, Lamar Jackson willed the Ravens to 2 miracle victories. They could easily be 3-3, the Ravens. And instead of us talking about them being one of the top teams in the NFL, we'd be saying, what's the matter with the Ravens? And it's such a thin line. But I think this is such a big game for Cincinnati because if they do win for the first time this year, we take them seriously as a contender. We don't look at them as a contender right now. We look at them as an improving team, and there's a difference. They win this game, we got to give Cincinnati a good look. Because that's an organization, that's a team that's on an upswing, and those teams are dangerous.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that too, because this is going to be a good test for Cincinnati, and why not do it against Lamar Jackson and team? So that'll be a good, and on the road. So this should be a good test for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, I definitely are interested in watching parts of that game anyway. So, you got the Saints and the Seahawks. Now, the Saints, everybody thought, well, if Winston, he can be a great quarterback under Sean Payton. And then you got, the Seahawks, they're always a playoff contender. And then you got, Russell Wilson's out. I mean, to me, the Saints have a very good defense, Byron, right? I don't think there's a question about that. The question will always be, can Winston play a quality starting quarterback job? I mean, listen, he's not a bad – he turns the ball over too much, and for some reason he has a problem reading defenses, in my opinion anyway. Okay, he can throw the ball a mile, and he can hit a guy in between 2 players, but reading defenses, making the right throws, I think he has a problem with. And then you have him against Seattle, who was a playoff team considered with Russell Wilson out. Can Seattle take a step up and beat the Saints this weekend?
Well, like you said, New Orleans defense is what then kept them, where they are. And Seattle defense is the opposite. They got holes all in that defense. I mean, and I think a lot of people done expose their weaknesses. So it's one of those games. And Jameis Winston, he got to mature. I mean, how long do it take for a player to mature? He's making some stupid mistakes that he don't supposed to be making in this stage of his career, right? So I'm thinking that it's really all on his shoulders on how they can improve, how they can be consistent. I think they got one of the best coaches, and right now they not they just playing. One week they look this way, next week they look like they don't know nothing about football. So you're exactly right. I just think too Seattle have really. I think they've been exposed and people have been taking advantage of them. So I just think going up to Seattle, they talking about the 12th man up there. Man, they're gonna need the 12th man and from now on for the rest of the season if that's the case, because Seattle is not looking like the Seattle of old. So it's amazing that each week it'd be a shocker in the NFL on some of these teams and how they playing football.
Byron, but you're thinking of the old Jameis Winston. This year he's been fairly careful with the football because Sean Payton has set up a conservative game plan. And, and I'll take Jameis Winston over Geno Smith anytime. I mean, if you want to make a comparison. In fact, Pete Carroll put in a call to Cam Newton to check out what's going on. So that should show the concern with Russell Wilson out.
Yeah, Cam Newton took a shot too. So maybe now he gets some calls. So hopefully, you got to have a quarterback they got some confidence, got control, don't make those stupid mistakes. And so, it's a lot of backup quarterbacks in the NFL is pretty garbage. And let's just say it like it is. And, you can't win with these guys. These guys are not there to help you win games. So hopefully your starting quarterback can stay healthy. But in NFL, teams are looking for the next guy up to come up and play, and you got to have good backup players in order to be consistently, hopefully, get to the playoffs.
Green Bay. Everybody thought Washington, well, not everybody. There's quite a few people that thought Washington was going to win this division this year because of their defense. I don't know what happened to their defense this year, Byron. I don't see a defense out there at all. It's like they put a bunch of guys out there with Washington Redskins uniforms and names on the back, but they're not the same players. Do they have any chances? Can you see any way of them going up to Green Bay and beating the Packers?
I don't think Washington go up there and beat the Packers. They don't have a quarterback worth of crap, but he's been consistent. Chase Young is only somebody that's really doing it on their defense. Other than that, you just got some no-name players out there. So I don't see them going up there. Aaron Rodgers gonna tear that defense secondary apart. And it's just not. I don't see them going up there having a chance to win this game. This is a game that Green Bay gonna control from start to finish. That's my belief.
I think you're right. I don't think Washington has a chance, so they'll probably win since me and you both agree that they can't win at all. So there you go. The Giants against Carolina, we've covered the Giants' terrible team at nausea here. This would be a team that could possibly have a chance. The Giants could have a chance at winning. I don't know about you, Byron. We said this a couple weeks ago, but I really feel that if they don't beat Carolina, if they don't beat them, not come close, beat Carolina, some heads are rolling after that game. I really believe Garrett, I think the defensive coordinator, Graham, I think all their jobs are going to be looked at. And
Giants never fire guys during the season.
Listen, I'm telling you, Jack, I think because they jumped out to 1-5, it jumped out to 1-5 again, like in the third, fourth year in a row. I think that something's going to happen after this game if the Giants don't beat Carolina. Byron, are you with me?
Yeah, didn't they fire the offensive line coach last year in the middle of the season?
The defensive line coach, yes.
So, I mean, you're absolutely right. I feel like this is one of those games where you must win, or either changes got to happen with your organization, and you better well start now because the Giants was predicted to be, on top of that NFC East. So if you're predicted to win and the next thing you know, you only won one game, I think you're going to have to do something drastically in your organization to make the change because, the fans and the people are ready for that organization to do some things. And it's such a great organization from top to bottom, and you're not winning. You can blame injuries, you can blame this, you can blame that, but at the end of the day, you got to win those games. So I think the Giants going to be in a situation where they got to put have the rubber meet the road, and they got to do some things. So you're exactly right. I
Well,
just think it's one of those. Go ahead. I
Byron,
just
but
think
worse,
it's a must win for no doubt. It's a must win.
worse than that, guys, at the end of the game with the Rams, it seemed like some of the Giant players shut down. James Bradbury didn't look like he was hustling on the Ram touchdown, like he wasn't running all out, after the receiver. And some of the Giants were back, was on the old-time players, and they were saying that Joe Judge should be, hold these guys accountable. So when you have the former Giant legendary players criticizing the current regime, it puts so much more pressure on them. And Joe Judge is really under it now. And listen, the beginning of the year, all that nonsense, having him do extra push-ups and run extra laps, you lose the guys in the long run that way. The act wears thin. How's he going to discipline them now? Give them more physical things to do? I mean, you got to build a relationship where you could talk to the guys, where they care about you, where you could sit down and deal with them as men, heart to heart. That's the best way of getting it done. And I believe Joe Judge's tough man thing, you send your other coaches away and say, I got this, guys. You're diminishing your assistant coaches in the process. It's a mess. Listen, I don't think they necessarily have to beat Carolina, but they better play hard and play competitively, because if they get blown out, then it becomes ugly. Then I can see, maybe a head or two rolling only under that circumstance if they're non-competitive and it looks like they're not trying as hard as they can.
Yeah, I agree. But I still say this is a must-win for them, and I think Carolina, it can be a team that they can really dominate if they play error-free football and everybody come in there with a mindset of taking care of your business, and that's what they need to do. I think that's what I think.
Byron, I don't necessarily agree with Jack and all that rigmarole about Judge making him run laps, and I don't care about that. But I do agree with him that he's got to have some kind of communication in a locker room. And we've spoken about that. Who's the leaders of the players in that locker room? There doesn't seem to be any. I saw, Giant players getting mad because the Giant fans were booing them. What do you expect? You're playing terrible. What do you want to do? Cheer you? Or come out, congratulate you at the end of the game? Of course they're going to boo you. So to me, that he's not a leader. If anybody says that is not a leader. So anyway, I just feel, the talk is talk, and they've been talking for the last 3 years on the Giants, the coaching staffs, the different coaching staffs. And we know, though, Byron, that if you keep changing coaches, like with the Jets, like with all the bad teams, you got to start all over again, and then you got to rebuild again, and it just keeps going and going and going like that. There has to be a point where you take a coach and say, listen, it's yours, run with it. But, man, I don't know what to say about the Giants anymore. I feel if they don't win, I don't think Joe Judge is fired. But I could see Garrett. I could see Graham. I could see some of the coaches off that team after that game. I could see that happen.
It's funny, Mac, what you just said. I'm looking at myself with the Jet, shirt on. The Jet fan base isn't nearly as upset as the Giant fan base is, because the Giants had these expectations, making the playoffs, that this was their year, they were going to get it done. You can't blame the Giant fans. I mean, booing the players is fair game if you're focusing on their performance on the field and you're not getting personal. And the Giants, think of all the season ticket holders. In the last 33 games, they're 6-27 at home. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree.
Ridiculous. That's you said the key thing. That's ridiculous. And something you got to change. So you might have to start cutting people. I mean, the Giants, just think about jumping off sides against the Washington team. So little stuff like that, they can easily be won a couple more games. And so you got to shake it up. It's time for them to shake it up. You can't wait no longer. The most critical thing is that you got to start winning games, and they're not doing that.
I definitely agree with that. Well, Byron, thanks for joining us, coming on before your golf tournament. I hope you do well. I couldn't hit a golf ball if you made it about 10 times bigger than what it is. So,
you gotta let me mention this point with Byron. Byron, I got into a dispute with Jim Jeffcoat a few weeks ago. What was worse, okay? Cutting the middle as a receiver, as quick as he can to try to catch a ball, and being hit head on by a Ray Lewis who wants to give you the meanest hit possible, or being caught on the bottom of the pile. What is worse, you know? And Jim Jeffcoat says, without a doubt, it's worse to be on the bottom of the pile. But you backed up my argument with your broken jaw cutting the middle. That's worse to me than being on the bottom of the pile. What do you say?
Absolutely. Just think about this. I couldn't talk. I couldn't eat food.
Yeah.
And then you just have to take it really, really easy. So, I mean, if it's gonna affect you 2 or 3 weeks down, in the middle of you getting healed, some healing process. So I think the healing process, which it took a while to heal, and your jaw was cracking, and you couldn't talk, I can't talk no way. But anyway, it was a lot of things that affected me, and I think that broken jaw is a tough.
Well, I put it this way, Byron, very quickly, because Mac wants to get to commercial. That if you were an attorney and someone was convicted and the judge gave them 2 punishments, you have to cut the middle as quick as you can and get hit by the meanest NFL play at top speed and get caught for 2 minutes at the bottom of the pile. What do you advise him? And I said, be on the bottom of the pile. Jeffcoat said, get it over with, get your hit quick, and that's that.
Well, we found out the other day, Tutal told him to start headbutting when he first went in there.
Oh.
So I think he got a lot of memory problems. So he's not Jeff think right. And you and I on the same page on this stuff.
Okay. I'll let Jeffcoat know.
All right, Byron. You have a great day.
And Tutal told me to tell you hello.
Yes, yeah. He's a very serious man, Dak. So I just leave it at that.
Byron, I'm going to leave him alone. He wasn't smiling.
Oh my God, Byron. We'll see you next week. Have a great day, and we'll see you on your show, J&B Talking Shop, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. on Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel. Have a great one, Byron.
Take care.
You guys have a good one.
So there you go. Jack always wants to extend things because I got other things going on. Jack don't care, though. Jack just does not care about what I want to do.
Let it go, Mac.
Whether it's about again, he's going to stop me. Whether we got to get to a commercial, whether we got Philly Sports Guy ready to come on right after the commercial. Jack wants to drag out a bit for 2 hours if he could, folks. That's why I love him. Folks, we'll be right back after these messages. And we have the Philly Sports Guy coming up live from Vegas. I'm excited. So we'll be right back after these few messages, folks.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. And if you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Chock full of nuts is that heavenly coffee, heavenly coffee, heavenly coffee. Chock full of nuts is that heavenly coffee. Better coffee a millionaire money can't buy.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
My baloney has a first name, it's O-S-C-A-R. My baloney has a second name, it's M-A-Y-E-R. Oh, I love to eat it every day. If you ask me why I say, 'cause Oscar Mayer has a way with B-O-L-O-G-N-A.
Oscar Mayer, the first name in Bologna.
How's that?
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on a Friday. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer, Hall of Famer, here live here Friday on Facebook Live, YouTube, and backstage right now, Jack, we have two guests. We have the Philly sports host, Jamie Pags. We're going to bring him up. And we also got, he's in Vegas. We got Keith in the Caribbean, and here I am sitting with you. So let's bring him up on camera right now. There's the Philly sports guy. There he is. There's Keith. How you guys doing today?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
How you doing, Keith?
Is it game today or what? I didn't know.
I'm doing good. I feel like I'm on the bottom of the pile, though.
Okay. I know. I try, guys. I try. I really do try to keep everything organized. But Jack, he just keeps me jumping from thing to thing.
I know Keith is in a good mood over Aaron Boone's 3-year extension.
See, there we go.
Please, don't get me going.
Right away. We're gonna start right away before I even say a word and getting things rocking. That has nothing to do with the format. So let's start, Keith, and we are going to go with the three coaches getting fired from the Yankees and them signing Boone. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts I posted a couple times, guys. You know what? Aaron Boone, in my mind, this is a gutless move by any manager who lets his hand-picked coaches get fired and you keep your job. He should have walked away with his head held high and had some spine, and he showed zero here. And I've lost all respect I ever had for Aaron Boone. Done.
You never had any respect for Boone. Don't come out here and lie on my show, Keith, please.
I had a little bit. In the beginning, but not later on. But what little bit I had, Mac, is gone. You can't do that. You cannot do that.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you. I've been critical of Boone too, but what am I going to do? I'm not the GM or the owner. Hey, Pags,
no.
I saw you beating the drum at the Flyers game. You were ringing the gong when you're gone, that whole 9 yards. Let's go Flyers. I mean, is that the first time you've done that?
It was only the second time they'd ever had anybody do it. So, yes, it was the first time. I was privileged to be brought up there. They kind of did it as a birthday gift to me. They've been real excited about the fact that I have shown some spirit at Flyers games. and I'm really big on getting the crowd riled up. And since then, the first game we started off with that tie loss, and then won 2 games. A big one against the Bruins.
Yes.
So that was awesome to watch.
I believe it. You looked very excited, as you always are, at your games. So, Keith, let me bounce it back to you real quick. Let's talk a little bit about the college football matchups. You got number 2 Cincinnati playing this week. I mean, it's unbelievable they're number 2 to begin with. And they're playing Navy. Do you see any kind of contest there at all?
Navy's in a really down cycle right now. They'll come back, but right now, Cincinnati's rolling, and Navy team's really struggling. Cincinnati's going to roll easy this weekend.
I think you're right, and Pax, Penn State there. I mean, they looked really good the first couple games. They kind of fell off a little bit, playing tough games though. I'm encouraged by Penn State this year. I think they're back on track again.
I think that they're playing Ohio State, correct? Or is it? No, they play Ohio State next week.
Right.
Next week is, I think, the quarterback will be back playing again, and I think that they're going to go as far as their quarterback takes them. When they have their backup, obviously, he showed against Iowa that he just was not ready for the limelight, and the coach was. They didn't know how to even really call plays for him, and that was really the downfall. Or else they would still be in the top 4.
I think they would. I mean, they've been playing really good this year, and like you said, that quarterback being hurt really has kind of put a roadblock in front of them as far as being in the top 4 right now. But who knows? Maybe they'll bounce back, give Ohio State a game. I don't know if he's starting this week or not, but it should be very interesting. And guys, Alabama bounced right back, right? I mean, I guess Saban got mad, and that was all she wrote, right?
Yeah, you knew it would be Mississippi State last week. Good grief. It was going to be ugly. You knew that. Bama's got some flaws, but Alabama and Georgia, I think, are still going to get in the playoff. But, Alabama could beat Georgia. Could. The only way Alabama doesn't get in is if they lose to Georgia in the championship game. I don't know. They might even get it with 2 losses, to be honest with you. But we were talking about Penn State before. That whole Big Ten is going to have a problem because the strongest division is the North, and those teams are going to beat up in each other. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State. You got a round-robin tournament to get to the championship game, and it might hurt them in the playoffs.
And I think the exact same thing. I think that once you get into the playoffs, and I feel that that's going to create. I know it's in 4 years. They're supposed to have that 12-team playoff. If Alabama does not make it into the playoffs this year, that 12 team will be within next year.
It'll be next year for sure.
I agree with
Cincinnati
that.
Gets in. If Cincinnati gets in, it's next year. It doesn't matter what Alabama gets in for sure either. Yeah,
that's probably
it'll be next year.
Cincinnati's only game that they got to play against anybody is SMU, and SMU is trying to prep it for. That's going to be a good game, and I think SMU. And you know what? I'm like an old school SMU fan. Before they got the ban. I was always a big fan of SMU. So to see their resurgence a little bit is nice.
You know what I don't understand with all the glamour schools out there, how is Cincinnati able to recruit to become this relevant?
Well, that's a good question, but I think Luke Fickell has brought a lot of guys from that area that might have gone to Ohio State or some of the other Big Ten schools and be able to sell them on going somewhere where they could play and play right away where they might not have in one of these other Big Ten schools. And that's brought up some really good kids in that program. We'll see what happens next year when they got 2 years, I guess, when they got to step up to the Big 12 when they move. But I think Luke Fickell's done a tremendous job there, and he's going to get mentioned for all these jobs. USC, LSU. I don't think he's going anywhere with Cincinnati going to the Big 12 in a couple of years.
Pax, you mentioned SMU. We're going back, if I'm correct. You're going back to when they ran that I think they ran a wishbone at one time. And was it Billy Sims that played there way back when they had
Billy Sims? Didn't Dickerson play there too?
Was it
Eric Dickerson played there, right?
All right.
Yeah, Eric Dickerson. So, and that's what I remember. So I was young, but like SMU, they had the Mustang, and that was the thing. So I was a young kid. I didn't really know much about college sports, but SMU was just the team that I liked to follow. Him and Jerry Tarkanian and UNLV. With the basketball, like when he would suck on the towel. You know what I mean? That's what I remember as a kid growing up about college football and basketball.
Yeah, right.
So,
hard to believe Pegs liked all the renegades in college sports.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Really hard to believe. So let's talk about basketball a minute. Both sides. The Knicks, they picked up that Fournier, and a big pickup for them as far as the scoring goes. And the 76ers, the soap opera goes on with Simmons. Suspended. They get kicks out of practice. What do you think? Do you think the Knicks are relevant this year to maybe make a run at the top 4 again? And Pags, what do you think about the 76ers? Are they going to make the top 4 again with all those problems?
Start with the Knicks.
Yeah, we'll start with the Knicks. The Knicks are going to be better. It's funny. I see some Vegas, over-unders at 42. And if the Knicks win 42 games, Carlos will have his luck and his wish, and Thibodeau will probably get fired. They're going to win 50-plus this year. Do I think they're going to, beat 1 in the East or 2 in the East? I don't think they're ready to get there yet, but they're going to be relevant come playoff time this year, and I think they're going to be a better team for what they went through last year, and plus the guys that they added this year. And if you add in the drama in Philadelphia, as you talked about, it's only going to help the teams like the Knicks and the Bucks.
What do you think, Pags?
I think the Knicks are still a year or 2 away. However, we have a 6'10" point guard if they want to trade. So, I tell you, what Daryl Morey said yesterday, he says everybody should buckle in because this could be a long process. And I think that they are getting help, quietly from the NBA. The NBA is on the Sixers side about this, and they will not interfere with how the Sixers are going to do this. And I feel like that the ripple that Ben Simmons is creating in the pond of the CBA is going to have a big effect. I feel that the NBA is going to be able to they're going to create a Ben Simmons rule that if you want to do this, that teams are going to be able to have some control to suspend you for a good amount of time without pay if you're going to act like this. This was like the same thing that James Harden did, except James Harden came in, he was a little out of shape, but still went out and got his points. You know what I mean? So at least he still did it and just was loud and unhappy about what was going on. He's not doing that. He's not even participating. So, and that's going to be something that's going to come up in the CBA next year.
I get the feeling that Ben Simmons is going to do something a little drastic, like maybe start a little scuffle with Joel Embiid in practice, really push the issue where the Sixers are finally going to have to do something. You could suspend the guy for 20 games without pay, but at the end of the day, Ben Simmons is a valuable chip for the Sixers for what they can get in return. So, not to cut you off there, but at what point does the other team say, we don't want this issue? He's did it here now. Here we just paid him all this money. You know what I mean? And now he's crying that he doesn't want to do it. Thought he could just come in here against what his agent was doing. His agent was trying to work something out, and he went against his agent. Just figured he's going to show up and get paid, and he still hasn't gotten paid yet. So this is up in his head. There's something going on with him that's beyond basketball, and I'm not sure who he's listening to help talk to him, but obviously he's listening to the wrong people, and this is going to create a ripple that's going to be felt throughout the entire NBA.
Yeah. You guys, you do this in the real world, you get fired for cause and you don't get paid, and that's what's out to happen here.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've heard. Well, Keith and Pags, I've heard this before, right? The team should stand its ground. It should do this. It should do that, and they may make a rule up next year about this, the next CBA. But right now, the 76ers are on the hook. As long as he shows up, they got to pay him. And I don't. You could him out. You could suspend him.
Not true. Not true.
That's
not true.
If he's detrimental to that team and they can fire him for cause, they don't have to pay him a nickel.
Well, it's true. They can suspend him. I agree with that. But if he doesn't do that, if he shows up and doesn't give his all, and I mean, he doesn't.
Well, that's different.
That's what I'm saying. So a lot of teams, a lot of people say teams should take a stand. But what do you do when you're paying this guy $100 and whatever million, and he's not going to?
Yeah.
He's not going to play. What do you do?
$360,000 a game. $360,000 a game. That's what he's getting paid. And that's, and ultimately, if he's going to come in, listen, if he's going to come in, keep his mouth shut and play half of what he is, that's fine. You know what I mean? At least you're now able to say, okay, he's at least accommodating. He's not accommodating now, and that's what's going to turn other teams off. So I fully expect that, I mean, they're supposed to have a meeting this morning. I mean, they could be having it right now as far as I know, but I've been watching, the TVs behind me here have been showing Ben Simmons nonstop. So the fact that this is national news now, that it's gotten beyond the fact that it's just on Philadelphia, and Philadelphia's dealing with it. I mean, I have a radio station doing a program right over here, and they've been talking about Ben Simmons all morning. And we're in Vegas, ready for the Eagles to play the Raiders, and we have not talked much about that because Ben Simmons has got the airwaves clogged up.
I'm going to make a prediction here, guys, that they're going to come to an agreement with Ben Simmons at this meeting. You play hard the rest of the year. We promise if you want to be traded in the offseason, we promise that you're going to be traded at the end of this season. That's my prediction, the resolution they're going to come to.
They just put that up on the board. They gave that 2,000 to 1.
Pax. Max from Vegas, Keith from the Caribbean, still making a show. We appreciate that, guys. Let's talk a little football, right? You got the Patriots playing the Jets. I think it's at home, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Jets and listen, the Patriots seem to be improving. They're playing tough, not winning. You guys gave Dallas all they could handle. Do you see any way they lose to the Jets this week, Keith? I mean, be honest. Don't be a homer here.
Well, they can't. If they do, the season's over. But so, no, you can't lose to this team. They won't lose to this team. They're playing too well. I mean, I've had some of my followers. I've tried to do a couple remotes from the ship, and they're telling me how the Jets are and the Patriots and the Dolphins are all on the same level. And I'm like, are you guys even watching the game? The Patriots are playing good football and not capitalizing where they need to. They've made big mistakes in big spots. They could easily have won 3 of these games that they've lost. And listen, they'll be 3-4 after beating the Jets this week. The last time, well, I won't say the last time they were 3-4, but I remember one time they were 3-4. It was the year 2001, with a quarterback playing his first 6 games, called Tom Brady, and they won a Super Bowl. So I'll leave it at that.
You know, Keith, you're not as forgiving with the Yankees as the Patriots. Patriots are 2-4. Let me tell you why I think it's going to be a tough game for the Patriots, very competitive, because they're coming off an emotional game with the Dallas Cowboys. They had to be sky high for that game. And the Jets are coming off a bye week, so they're going to be more relaxed, more focused, a little more ready to go, I would think. So I think it's actually going to be a very tough game for New England.
It'll be a better game than it was the first time they played, but the Jets are not anywhere near, and Wilson is not anywhere near where Mac Jones is right now as a quarterback. Mac Jones is playing good football.
I can't disagree with you, but I could say that maybe it's not just Mac Jones and Zach Wilson we're talking about. We're talking about the whole team.
Wilson has more upside than Mac Jones. Don't kid yourself in the long run. He has more upside. It doesn't mean he's going to be a better quarterback. You know, it's the system you're in. But Mac Jones has been, arguably the rookie of the year this year.
There's no way we can even tell who's got more upside. Who had more upside than Tom Brady in 2001? About 25 other quarterbacks. So, just saying.
He's going to keep throwing time. He's going to keep throwing Tom Brady at you, Jackie, you have no answer for that, as I can see. I do.
He hasn't brought up Brian Hoyer yet.
Will never be a Tom Brady.
Brian Hoyer yet.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Jalen Hurts has upside, as Pags could tell you.
There we go. Good segue.
Please.
Good segue. Keith, the Raiders lose their head coach. They go out and they play really tough. They win the game. Last week, they got the Eagles at home. I mean, listen, the Raiders have improved defensively. They got a quarterback that can throw the ball long. They're a physical team. Eagles are going to beat them, though, right?
I think that it's going to be a closer game, but I think last week the Raiders played for their coach. You know what I mean? But this is a different week now, and there's a letdown that comes. I mean, that the drama that happened around them is now, now they have to face it. And I think that after 10 days, the Eagles had a little bit more rest because we, played on Thursday night, and we're out here. We're going to have about 25,000 fans in that stadium, and it's when you have that many fans, even though it's not a home game because that seats like 75,000 people in there, and the Raiders are going to have the rest, we're going to be loud enough. And I think that the Eagles can pull this one off. Again, there's a few things that I think that they have to do to be able to do that, and I don't know if the coaching staff is able to.
What kind of things do you think they would have to do? What kind of things you think they got to do, Pags? I mean, listen, I know they got to run the ball more. We all agree on that, including the whole stadium. But defensively, the Eagles haven't been – I don't want to say haven't been terrible. I mean, listen, Dak Prescott can light anybody up, right? I mean, that can happen. So I don't think Derek Carr is good as Dak Prescott. I don't think so. I mean, he's good. I don't know if he's on his level. Maybe you can shake him. That defense is a shake.
I think that's where the biggest change is going to happen, is that now Gruden's gone, and Gruden was the offensive mind of that team. I think that they're not going to be as strong because they don't have him with the team anymore. And that's where you're going to see the biggest change. The play calling last week, they had a game plan already, and then he left. So they still use that game plan. This is a whole new game plan now. Now, of course, they're going to score some points because, it's the NFL. It's hard to shut anybody out. But I don't expect them to have the type of game that they did last week even. They played inspired football last week, and they came out with the W. I don't think they're going to have that in them this week. I think it's going to be a lot harder for them to get as up as they are, and the Eagles need this win. They really need this win because ultimately, with this win, could spawn a 2 or possibly 3 game winning streak. Because we got Detroit next week, and then I think it's the Chargers. The Chargers are a tough team to play, but so I would say possibly a 2 game winning streak. And that puts us at 4-4 after 8 games, like I said it would be. So I count this as a win. And I feel that the Eagles are going to do it, and and who knows? I may even be surprised, and they may run the ball a little bit.
Oh, please, Pags, don't tell jokes this early in the morning.
Hey, it's really early here.
I mean, are you gambling already? I mean, Keith, are you drinking or you're gambling already? Aren't you two? I know you guys are. I know you're having. Go ahead.
I only had coffee so far. That's all I had today so far. It's early though. Right after this, if you get done with Jack, I gotta go have something.
I mean, I got some chips in my pocket. But I've been doing light gambling. I like to play some of the tables. I like to play them light, so it's not a really big deal here. I did have a Bloody Mary this morning because if you're going to be up this early in the morning, the breakfast of champions is Bloody Marys.
That's waiting on the deck for me when I get back. My wife will have one.
And since it is my birthday weekend, I'm celebrating here. So
yes, you are, Pags. But you know something? After 50, Pags, it don't matter anymore, dude. You're halfway home. Don't worry about it.
I'm not 50 yet, so I'm still celebrating like I'm 49.
It looks like you have a lot of work done to your face, Bags. Just saying. Anyway, guys. Anyway.
Yeah. See, it takes long. It's hard work to look this good.
Lord. Hey, guys, hopefully we can have you on the preview Sunday. If you can, great. If you can't, I understand.
I'm back in my studio Sunday morning. So
okay, beautiful, Pax. We'll call on you. I don't know have you talked to Captain Jack yet?
I have not. However, I expect to talk to him at some point today. I got all painted up this morning for the radio show and for you guys, obviously. So I'm not going to be painted up all day. But tonight is my birthday party, so I'm going to be doing that. And he's got me right at the end of my birthday party. So I don't know what type of shape I'm going to be in after that, but I'm going to do my best.
All right. Vegas has never be the same again. I swear to God.
Exactly.
And Keith, watch out for those cruise ship killers that I see on the TV all the time. So, a lot of people end up not coming back on cruises. I'm not trying to make you nervous. I'm just letting you know.
My wife was the only one that had me nervous. I've made it so far. So I kept one eye open, sleeping all night.
All right, cool. Good. Guys, thanks for coming in.
By the way, 2 weeks in a row, Jack doesn't mention Brian Hoyer. This is like a record.
Didn't mention who?
Hoyer.
Oh, Hoyer. Well, listen, I mean, if he gets in against the Jets, that's bad because that means he's in for mop-up work.
All right. Again, guys, I appreciate you coming in. Have a great time, and we'll see you both on Sunday. Take care.
Have a good weekend, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
So there you go, Jack. Two of our weekly guests. They're both crazy as all out, but they make it here. Everybody makes it here, Jack. No matter where they're at.
I'm going to tell you, it's great. Keith taking the time out from his cruise. To come on the show and Pax. It's so early in the morning in Vegas for him not to do it from his room. If I do it from Vegas, it has to be in my room at that time. It's so early in the morning. This guy's going down where the betting parlor is and setting up that early. Could you imagine the people looking at him wondering what the heck is this guy doing this early in the morning, dressing up like that down here?
And drinking Bloody Marys to start
for breakfast. Bloody Marys for breakfast. I can barely do a Red Bull at dinner time.
Oh, man. Okay, folks, we're gonna take our last break of the show here. We'll come back and talk about some stuff. I think I'm all blown out from having them both at the same time, but me and Jack always seem to come up with something. We always have sports in our minds and in our mouths. So we'll talk about some more sports when we come back. Stick with us, and we'll be right back on the Mac and Jack Sports Show again after these couple messages, folks.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
I heard you want to be a Frito Bandito like me. You do? Then you must sing the Bandito song. Let's sing together. You just follow the bouncing Fritos corn chips bag. Ay, 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 ay. I am the Frito Bandito. Hey, I like Fritos corn chips. I love them, I do. I want Fritos corn chips. I'll get them from you. Ay, 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 ay. Oh, I am the Frito Bandito. Give me Fritos corn chips and I'll be your friend. The Frito Bandito, you must not offend. Now, boys and girls, you are Frito Banditos too. You sing the Frito Bandito song and you loco for crunchy Fritos corn chips. That's nice. Munch, munch, munchy, munchy Fritos corn chips.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent
New Google
and part
Pixel
of
6
everyday
and save
conversation.
$99 on Pixel
So
Buds A
talk with your
series.
kids and help lead them on a positive path. Welcome. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Ellis B. Feaster's Radio Aircheck and Classic TV channel.
Shaper is the one bit I have when you're having more than one. Shaper pleasure doesn't fade even when your thirst is done. The most rewarding flavor in this man's world for people who are having fun. Shaper is the one bit I have when you're having more than one.
Ever wonder what makes Schaefer the one beer to have when you're having more than one? One reason is more than one fermentation. Most brewers just ferment their beer once, but Schaefer is fermented twice. Once to make it beer, and twice to make it Schaefer. The one beer with flavor so fine, it keeps shining through glass after frosty glass. More than one fermentation is one reason, but of course there's more than one reason behind the one beer to have when you're having more than one.
Jack is a legendary Hall of Fame boxing writer. Mac spells cat with the letter K. Mac played football and baseball for 10 years, coached football for 12. Jack was the wiffle ball home run king of the neighborhood. Jack was a sparring partner of the middleweight champion of the world, Golden Gloves boxer. Mac still reads cereal boxes at breakfast. Together they form the Sports Odd Couple. Both know sports in every way, but mostly at odds with their commentary and opinion. The Mac and Jack Sports Show, 8 to 10 a.m. on Facebook Live, Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel, Thursday through Sunday. Also on Spotify. Tune in and enjoy the show.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Friday edition. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, and we had a bunch of guests on, two at once, so it kind of threw my format out, but I'm glad they all came in. They all made it from over, in the Caribbean, Jack, from Vegas, Byron's going to a golf tournament, but they seem to find their way to come on the show, and we appreciate them showing up for us, Jack.
They're also having fun, Mac. They're doing a lot of different things. Me and you are just looking at one another, and then it's on with the day. I have to go food shopping. I have to take my car in to get serviced. I mean, then they're having fun. I mean,
yeah, we gotta get
in my face.
Yeah, we gotta.
Byron's out playing golf. Keith is on a cruise. Pags is in the casino, you know, doing his thing.
Yeah, I mean, we got to start getting out more, Jack. I swear to God, we got to get out there more and start doing more things with our lives and just just sitting in the studio all the time. But hey, listen, I'll take sitting here talking with you over that any day of the week, Jack, and that's being truthful. So go ahead, Jack. I know you want to.
I'm left speechless. I mean, listen, I mean, we got sports around the clock. I mean, it's great. I mean, evenings, so much is going on. I mean, it's a good time. I mean, when there's a lull, it gets to be in sports, it gets to be like a little boring. And now, like I was saying before, there are like so many games on. I mean, the NBA is just starting, the NHL is just starting, the baseball playoffs, the NFL. I mean, there's more than enough.
Let me ask you a question, Jack, right? I mean, we didn't touch on this with Keith in college. It's a pretty big story. Of course, the LSU, famous LSU, title-winning LSU head coach gets fired. And we're starting to read more about some of the reasons he was fired. Of course, he's lost some games, and LSU has kind of dropped off a little bit. But there were sexual harassment allegations made against some of the players. And he seemed to not want to do anything about it from what they were saying, that he just kind of left them alone and didn't look into it as hard as maybe he should have. I mean, I'm not giving you exact phrases, but this is what I gathered from reading the article. And his secretary even said that, you know, he might have asked her, alleged anyway, might have asked her to have sex with him. And it leads me to think on certain things, right? In any business, I don't care how good you are at something like this, you've got to handle it in today's society, man. You can't just let it. It's not like way back when you know, we didn't have all these outlets and all this news and all this. You can't let things lie. And being a coach, a head coach, you got to kind of keep up with the times. I think that's what hurts a lot of coaches, Jack.
I'll tell you, LSU won the national championship, a couple of years ago, and now to get fired after that, that's a tough pill to swallow so soon after. The question is, how much control can a college football coach actually have over the players? There's so many personalities. They have a social life. They do go out. They're young. Unfortunately, occasionally a player is going to get into trouble. Is it something that the coach knew about and just wanted to keep quiet for the sake of winning? I mean, that's the question. What measures does the university have in place with the coach as far as reporting things in? I mean, is it a bigger issue? Is it more of a school issue than a coach issue? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, allegedly the complaints were put to his desk and he just didn't do nothing about it, is why he supposedly got in trouble. But I agree with you to a point. I mean, I know you're control. You're the big man on campus. You make more money than anybody on campus being a major college football coach. But I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to take these players and are you going to suspend them? Isn't that something the university would have to get involved in, not so much a coach? So I agree with you to a point, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like I said a moment ago, it's a bigger issue. There has to be a policy for all the schools, okay? Every single school in the NCAA, you know, Pac-10, et cetera, you know, there just has to be a set policy on reporting things, and it has to be done with an independent agency, not the school itself, because you hit it on the head. It could be a star player, and the school might be reluctant to suspend that player because a big game could be coming up. And if they lose and if they're not a national championship contender, it could be lost revenue. So there has to be some independent agency deciding. And also, let's keep this in mind, Mac. sometimes accusations are made and the players could be totally innocent.
True.
So what are we supposed to do if there's an accusation? Suspend the player until it's resolved, until he's proven innocent? Isn't it supposed to be innocent until proven guilty? But with that said, some of these investigations can lag on forever. So what are you supposed to do? Let the player play until he graduates and then see he did something wrong and then hold the university accountable and then take away their victories during that time? We see historically that doesn't work either.
Yeah, that's crazy too. And I want to touch on Aaron Boone for a minute. And Keith brought up, Keith's been a very, very he's been very critical of Boone. I have to a point, maybe not as much as him. What I think bothers me, Jack, is the Yankees are competitive, right? They're there in the end. They're normally in the top 2-3 teams, and they're knocking on the playoffs door. And of course, they're the New York Yankees. They're supposed that the history shows that the Yankees are one of the best teams, the best franchises in the history of the United States. But it leads me again to a business question. A lot of mid-level to high-level managers that don't do their job 100%. In other words, that are good, but there's better out there, but yet they're friendly with the higher ups. And I think you've worked with people in your industry too, where not the best person has that job, right? You got a guy that's friends or gets along with the upper tier, and the guy that doesn't get along with the upper tier, even though he's better, he's the one that normally gets fired. And I don't know where you draw a line there, Jack. I mean, are you there to make sure the team is the best it can be, or that organization? Are you there for the employees or for the customers, or in this case, the fans? I mean, what do you think as an owner of a company? If you were the owner, say you owned Microsoft or you own the New York Yankees, both in the same discussion, don't you want the best person in charge and work on that personality later? Or would you rather have somebody that, we'll do what you want to do, but your company's not going at 100%, Jack?
You have to be a little more specific here, Mac. We're talking about Aaron Boone with the coaches being fired, Aaron Boone being allowed to stay on, but he has to defer to Brian Cashman, the GM. I'm not sure exactly what you mean on it. Obviously, if something isn't going well, organizations are going to make changes. And getting back to the Yankees situation, Keith Engel mentioned Aaron Boone showed no backbone, no spine by allowing his hand-picked coaches to be let go, but him staying, I don't necessarily agree with that.
I don't either.
The coaches were given an opportunity. What were they with Aaron Boone 3 years? It didn't quite work out completely. They had a level of success in that they did make the playoffs each year. So I don't want to hear the Yankees have been a failure. They haven't been a failure. They just didn't get to the place where Yankee fans wanted them to get, meaning the World Series. And the organization's entitled after a while to tell Aaron Boone, look, we tried out your coaches for a period of time. It didn't quite work out the way we wanted. Now we're moving on. If Aaron Boone, this is showing backbone. As soon as you get the job, you say, as long as I'm manager of this team, these guys have to be my coaches unless there's a conduct issue, unless they talk back. These are my guys. I'm with them as long as I'm manager of the Yankees. And that didn't happen. Look, it happens in the NFL all the time. Head coaches are told finally, like with the Cowboys, they bring in new assistant coaches, and sometimes you want to keep your head man. It's kind of different departments. Aaron Boone hasn't earned the right to have such power where he's telling the organization, you have to keep my guys, otherwise I'm walking. It doesn't work that way now in sports. Organizations get involved in every single facet of the organization. The only time they don't is in the rare instance where head coach is so powerful that he could tell an organization, you keep my guys or I'm going to leave. And they are not going to let the head coach or manager leave because he's such a compelling personality that they're going to defer to him. It's a new age in sports. I don't think Aaron Boone was wrong. You know, what was he supposed to do? I quit. He doesn't command that type of power.
Yeah, not to threaten anyway, Jack. I mean, he can quit, but it's not going to change the thought that they're going to bring the
He
coaches.
might not get a manager's job elsewhere, despite Brian Cashman saying he'd be gobbled up immediately. Really, Brian? I'm not that sure he gets another manager's job again. It gets a job in the booth. And look, Aaron Boone was loyal to his guys. They were with him, you know, a few years. It just didn't quite work out completely. And the coaches had to know on the Yankees, their job was going to be jeopardized if they didn't make a deep run into the playoffs. In other words, get to the World Series. They had to know that.
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree with you, Jack. I mean, I've seen it happen. Pittsburgh Steelers is a great example, right? Their offensive coordinator was let go. They didn't fire Mike Tomlin about that. They fired the offensive coordinator.
And the people saying Mike Tomlin should just quit
right.
immediately. Listen, and the Yankees handled it the right way. They waited till the end of the season. Look, Steve Phillips, when he was GM of the Mets, did something completely classless. The Mets were in a slump. They weren't doing quite as well as they could. He fired the whole coaching staff, but they left on Bobby Valentine in season. Maybe Bobby Valentine should have quit then. I don't know. If I were the owner of the Mets at the time, I would have called Steve Phillips in my office. I would have been outraged of what he did. And I would have said, Steve, you get all those coaches back and rehire them immediately. And if one doesn't come back, you're fired. Get it?
Yeah.
Get out of the office right now and get it done immediately.
Yeah,
I wouldn't allow Steve Phillips to have that type of power as GM.
You know, Jack, getting back to the original question, I don't think Aaron Boone is a great manager. I don't think he ever will be a great manager. I think it takes a special person to be a great manager. There's very few great managers out there, to be honest with you, right? But I think Aaron Boone is liked by the organization. I don't know if that's good enough to keep a manager around just because they like him. I think the Yankees could pick almost any good manager out there, and they would probably, not all of them, but I think the majority of them would coach for the Yankees. So my only problem with this is like in a business, when you wash the owner's car, or you go out with the owner, or you have a good time with the owner. I'm not saying Boone's out there partying with Steinbrenner. I'm just saying the relationship there with Steinbrenner and Cashman is so good that it may not be benefiting the New York Yankees. That's all I'm saying.
Look, you have to be able to get along with people. We hear about Mark Jackson with the Golden State Warriors, who's let go. He built the foundation. Yeah, he certainly contributed to the Warriors' success. But the Warrior owner said not one person in the building liked him. When you have all those people that despise you, it's just not working out. Aaron Boone apparently is liked within the organization, and he hasn't been unsuccessful. Look, they've made the playoffs each year. They won 92 games this year. I mean, they did what I expected them to do. I said they were going to struggle to make the playoffs, get a wild card slot the last day of the season. I said it all year long, and I was a prophet, actually. The Yankees are what they are. They're good, but they're not that good. They need a step up to championship caliber, and maybe they'll take it during this off season. And why would you want to move on from Aaron Boone? Who are you really going to get who's better? I love the way people keep saying, make a change, get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy. Even with the Yankee catching situation,
listen,
what
Jack,
are you going to do?
There are managers out there, Buck Showalter, just to name one.
Buck Showalter, okay, let me say the bottom line. He's never went to a World Series as manager. We're going to hear, he laid the foundation for the Yankees in Arizona. And if we want to talk about bottom line, they haven't got, he hasn't gotten there. But he would have had to hire Joe Torre.
He is a real manager, though, Jack. He is a real.
What's his track record?
His track record is to take bad teams and make them really good, Jack. That's his track record.
But the Yankees don't have a bad team, and he left. And when he left the Orioles were, a cellar dweller. with
he
Puck show off
he
at the end of the day.
He also took them to the playoffs in the first time in 17 years.
Aaron Boone's went to the playoffs 4 years in a row. That's
So
not
he's
the
not
problem.
he's not coach. You're the one that brought up the Orioles, Jack. I didn't. That's a terrible team. That's the big difference. So anyway, let's get off that for a second. Let's get to the NFL while we can here. I really don't understand the NFL this year. Okay, I really don't, and in a lot of different ways. You have teams that look like they're really good, and then they flop, and then we got the Dallas Cowboys coming on, and they're going to go to the Super Bowl, but every time they get there, different coaching staff, granted, but every time they get to the playoffs, they kind of fold. We thought, we thought Baltimore was almost all done. That Pittsburgh, last year was going to the Super Bowl. Teams are going up and down. Crazy this year. I know it's early, it's only mid-season, but the Chiefs don't understand. I don't know what's happened to them besides some injuries, and I don't want to hear injuries because everybody gets injuries.
Yeah.
This year has been really crazy to me, Jack. I'm normally really great at picking games. Really, this year I'm stumped. I'm really stumped. I don't know. I really don't know who the best teams in football are this year. I think the Rams are. I think the Rams are a great team. I mean, they showed that last week.
Well balanced. Very
I
well
think
balanced.
so. And I think in the AFC, Buffalo is probably the team to beat. But they got Tennessee just ran all over them. I mean, I know teams fall and come up and fall and come up, and they have bad teams. But I mean, bad games. Who do you think is really right now? If you had to pick two teams, the NFC and AFC, who would you say would be in the Super Bowl at the end of the year?
I mean, I stick to my teams who I predict is going to be going to the Super Bowl, and I predicted basically, I'll go with the Buccaneers. I mean, it's a question of peaking. They're so well balanced. They have a problem in the secondary right now. Their secondary wasn't their strong point as is, and with injuries, they've kind of have to get that straightened out. They have the year to do it. And I love the LA Rams, how well balanced they are too.
How about the Cardinals? How about the Cardinals? Is that team for real?
You want to know something? The Cardinals are 6-0. There are 11 games left to play. Let's say hypothetically they go let's say hypothetically the Cardinals only lose 2 games the rest of the season. I mean, how many times have we seen a team with a great record get knocked off in the playoffs by another team? Yeah, you kind of see it all along. I like the Cardinals. I like the improvements they've made. And I realized they beat the LA Rams earlier this year, and the Rams were coming off maybe an emotional victory over Tampa Bay. I like the Cardinals a lot. Do I like them to go to the Super Bowl? Not quite. I could see the Cardinals playing in the NFC Championship game, perhaps. And I'm not that sure the wheels aren't going to fall off the Cardinals a little bit. They will get in the playoffs. I just don't like them to take the ultimate step. I know it's glamorous. They got a leader like J.J. Watt, who hasn't been playing that great, by the way, J.J. Watt. When we hear about how wonderful a leader guy's been, well, he hasn't been playing that much, but the leadership he provides, you need the leadership by playing well on the field. And can we be that confident that Kyler Murray is going to make it healthy throughout the season, Mac? You tell me, because that's really the key.
I don't know, but let me read you something. They beat the Titans 38-13. Granted, the Titans weren't playing that well in the beginning.
The Titans, but they only win this season.
Right. The Cardinals sneak by the Vikings 34-31. They wallop the Jaguars 31-19, which I don't think is that big of a deal early.
Well, that's not wallop big, 31-19. They were losing that game 19-10, and then they rallied.
Second half, they killed them. The Cardinals, they beat the Rams, as you said, 37-20.
Big win.
They beat the 49ers by 7, and they beat the Cleveland Browns 37-14. That seems real to me, Jack. I don't know. I mean, I think the Rams are the better team overall, But man, I unless I'm not watching the Cardinals every week. I've seen the Rams play. I haven't really sat down and watched the Cardinals play this year. I mean, I'm interested to see if Tampa Bay even makes it.
Listen, that's going to be hard over there with the teams that they're going to have to beat. Okay, we're talking about in terms of them beating Tampa Bay, the Rams to get there. What about the Cowboys?
Yeah.
What about the Green Bay Packers?
That's what I'm saying, Jack.
Teams in the NFC, that can go to the Super Bowl. So many teams, the competition seems to be so much harder than the AFC. Well, who's Buffalo really going to have to beat? They're going to have to beat the Ravens, for example. They're going to have to beat the Cleveland Browns. They're good teams in the AFC, but somehow it seems like the power teams are there in the NFC.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree, especially this year. I mean, we thought the Chargers and then the Ravens. I mean, they took them apart. I mean, listen, if you got a good team, I mean, I know you throw a stinker up there once in a while, but when you're going up against the Ravens, I mean, you got to know what they do, and you got to be ready for that. And the Chargers weren't ready at all for the Ravens. I agree with you. I think the NFC this year anyway, and it's changed over the past couple of years. I think the NFC is a better conference.
Well, some teams have a little more pressure on them. Some franchises to win more. You mentioned the Chargers. Chargers don't even have to get in the playoffs. They were 7-9 last year. If they go 10-6 and don't make the playoffs, the year's not unsuccessful. The Chargers can go 11-5, lose the first game in the playoffs, be a wild card team. And the year's been a success. But for some teams, the pressure's really on them to win it all. I mean, Tampa, anything less than the Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl, the year hasn't been a success. The Rams, if they fall short of the Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford, the year hasn't been a success. Let's be honest about it. Arizona, they've raised the bar by an awful lot. And if they're going to be 15-2 this season and then they lose at any point in the playoffs, it's been a big disappointment. And then there are these teams struggling to make the playoffs that are real wild cards, but they're not in the real sense of the word, like the Minnesota Vikings. What happens if they sneak into the playoffs? Could they cause some damage?
Yeah. I mean, they could. It's a very interesting season to me with Gruden being fired. And,
how about them Cowboys? Anything? They've raised the bar. I mean,
listen, the biggest concern was their defense, and their defense has definitely stepped up at least a little bit. If they get halfway, if they finish halfway on defense up to, in the rankings, they got a legitimate shot. They got a legitimate shot this year, Jack. I think they do. And, they folded a couple times, but their defense hasn't raised, been up that high in a long time. And I guess that defensive coordinator there, David Quinn, has been doing a great job. Dan Quinn, sorry. His brother David does give him advice every now and then, though, Jack. So folks, thanks for joining us on this Mac and Jack Sports Friday. Had a great time, great guests. Be sure to join us tomorrow on a debate show. We'll have Dr. Paul Semendinger in there. Our baseball expert, Brett Kell, should stop in, and we'll have a real great debate tomorrow. Love doing that with Jack. And Sunday, folks, the big football show. We get a lot of views on that. Jim Jeffcoat, our co-host, the great Dallas Cowboy, legend defensive end. We also have Robert Butler from Sportsco giving you his opinions and commentary. He's on top of all the stories. And then we'll have Keith back for the Pats preview. And we'll have Pags back for the Pags preview of the Philadelphia Eagles. And they'll both tell us how they're going to win and how they may not win. And it's always enjoyable to have them on live on game day. So thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow and Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m., live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And we'll see you later on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, and Pandora. If you can't make the screen, just look under Sports Content Podcasts, and Northeast Streaming Sports is right there. So you guys have a great Friday. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Enjoy today.
Be well.